This is Xiaomi's new electric scooter 4 Pro. So they've upgraded it, they've tweaked it a little bit and improved upon the design. One of the biggest problems with their scooters, at least I can speak from my experience in the past, has always been getting flat tires. Now they have apparently solved that now with some puncture resistant 10-inch tires. They've also increased the power output to 350 watts, but it's got a peak now of 700 watts. The deck size is a little bit longer, it's slightly wider. We've got an improvement to the rear brake and a range of up to 55 kilometers is what you can do. It still has the app support and it is more or less very similar to the other scooters. Is it worth the additional cost here? Well, that's what I'm here to find out in my review of the Xiaomi Electric Scooter 4 Pro.
Just like the previous generations, we have plastic mudguards, reflectors on either side and the front, and a rear tail light which is quite bright. Now when you brake, it does flash, as you can see now. And the front headlight, this is a 2.5 watt powerful bulb here with a lens in it, and it does light the path up ahead of you clearly. We now have 10-inch pneumatic tires, which are tubeless. They're self-sealing puncture-resistant tires. They do claim, Xiaomi, that if you happen to get a cut in them, and as long as it's under 3.5 millimeters, they will seal up and you won't be stranded having to push the scooter. I know that's happened to me quite a few times. The front hub motor, so it's a front-wheel drive system here, is 350 watts with a peak now of 700 watts. So it should help out with those climbs, and I'll be putting that to the test in this video. Another change is the improved rear brake caliper. So we still do have the 130mm disc brakes here, but the caliper is biting from both sides. And I have noticed an improvement in the braking performance with this scooter. It does seem slightly better than the other models, but it's not a huge difference. Xiaomi has used the same kickstand style as before in the previous models, and it holds up the scooter well. I haven't had any issues with it. There's no play in the front handlebar, the welds look good, and we do have some external cable routing, as you can see. This is for the brake and I think the rear tail light there, but it's nicely done. Now the charging port, this has a magnetic charging plug to it, so it just latches on by itself and makes things very easy. Once you pull it off, it even seals over with a little rubber cap using a bit of metal inside it to pull it together with magnets. The display of the Scooter 4 Pro is a little difficult to see in direct sunlight. Now, it doesn't flicker like this. This is just on camera. You can see now at nighttime, this is what it looks like. It is bright. You can see it when you're riding at night. But during the day, a little difficult to see. So it clearly does show you your battery levels. You can see if your light's on, your speed, and your current mode that you're in. So there's a walk mode up to 20km mode, and then the sport 25km/h mode. The scooter also does have a folding mechanism for the handlebars, just like the previous model. So you need to lift up the little security, pull down the latch here, and you can drop the handlebars right down. They do clip into the top mudguard, and this will allow you to put the scooter, for example, in the trunk or the boot of a car. And here's our application. So it is called Mi Home, and you just add the scooter to it. You need to watch a safety video. Once you've done that, you get the advanced settings here. So you can see the mileage remaining here, the charge, and we've got an option to lock the motor, turn the tail light always on, cruise control if you needed that, battery info, mileage info, and the energy recovery intensity. So if you go down a lot of hills and you don't want to go down those hills really fast, put that on to the medium or the high setting, but I actually prefer it on low, based on my previous experience with the other models that I have had. Now there are firmware updates. You've got a few other settings in here, as you can see, and it is paired to the account here with this scooter with the QR code and its serial number there.
Onto the fun part now, riding it. So the deck size, you've noticed, has increased a little bit. It's a little wider, a little longer. You can get the full specs off their website, but I do now have plenty of room. Well, I didn't really complain too much about it before anyway, to start with, for my feet on this. So you just need to simply push off. You've got to power it on, of course. Push off, then you can start accelerating. And you can see, look at all this room I've got here for my feet. So it's quite good. The controls are exactly the same as before, but we've got this walk mode here that I'm in, which is very slow. So that's just up to about 6 kilometers tops. And that's just a walking pace here. So the screen, you can see it in direct sunlight, but it's not super bright. I wish it was a little bit brighter. You can see the battery gauge. We've got our speed there and the different levels. So the first one, the walk mode, you can put it into then what is called D. That gets you up to 20 kilometers per hour. It's accelerating, and the longer you hold down that accelerator, it will then beep you go into the cruise control, so it's going to lock that speed. You can then release the accelerator. So it is comfortable just cruising along like so now at 20, and as soon as I touch the brake, there's regenerative braking too, by the way, it cuts out that cruise control. So this is where the scooter is absolutely perfect, of course, just for commuting about town to get to A to B in these bike lanes here. It's very smooth. 25 kilometers per hour may seem quite slow to me compared to some of the fast scooters I've reviewed, but these kind of conditions here just on the bike lanes around town, it's perfectly fine for that. But I do wish the EU law was 30 kilometers per hour. And my climb test now, I'm in the sport mode, so it should be able to handle inclines of 25 degrees, well 20 sorry, is Xiaomi's claim, and this is 25. You can see it is slowing down quite a bit. I'm now doing 8 kilometers per hour. I need to start kicking. So anything over 20, it is going to struggle, this particular scooter, even though it does peak at 700 watts, this motor. Braking test now from about 30 kilometers per hour from this post. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so no locking of that front wheel, so it's very safe, but the braking distance could be a little better. But overall, good brakes here with the electric scooter 4 Pro from Xiaomi. And I have made it down to the end of the coast now, cruising along. So it is smooth and then it isn't smooth, because if the road is smooth, the ride is smooth, but because it does not have any suspension, you do kind of feel everything. And I am running that higher PSI of about 45 that I'm running at the moment, which is within Xiaomi's recommendations. So it is cruisy, it is good, as long as you have nice, smooth road surfaces. Okay, so what about our range? Down to 50% battery, and I've covered 18 kilometers. So it looks like I'm gonna get just over 30. I've done a couple of climbs and I'm using the sport mode, which is the 25 kilometers per hour. So range is certainly a lot better than what I do remember from the first versions that I did review and cover here in the channel. So it really has essentially the same kind of riding comfort as before. There's no noticeable difference. Braking performance has improved a little bit. We've got a slightly higher handlebar and a little bit more room for your feet. That is really it when it comes to the ride. However, of course, we've now got those puncture-resistant tires, which should solve one of the big headaches of this particular model, but it still does bounce along, and you need to run around 40 to 50 PSI, which is quite high, meaning the ride isn't super smooth. Now you gain the range, you gain a little bit better climbing performance. Does it justify that extra cost really that Xiaomi's asking for? Well, I think it only does if you're someone that's heavier and someone that needs to just go further with those distances. You need that better range, then certainly this is the model that's going to cover it. But I don't really think it warrants it for most people to go for the more expensive Scooter 4 Pro model here for that additional cost, because really it's very similar to the other cheaper models, and I think the cheaper models will probably suit most people. So thank you so much for watching my review here of the Xiaomi electric Scooter 4 Pro.